meron ng movement for unitary nomenclature. Ibig sabihin, isahin na lang ang pangalan ng fungus. So as early as 1990s, there was a clamor to abolish dual nomenclature. So the first proposal for doing away with dual nomenclature was in the early 2000s. Nandun ako, nagkakagulo sila. I was there in 2002. I attended the International Mycological Congress, Oslo, Norway. And so this was a big congress. It happens every, I think, 4 years or 2 years. And then so at the end of the congress, there's always a meeting on fungal taxonomy kasi di-discuss nila yung mga taxonomic matter. So it was at that meeting na merong nag-propose na we want to abolish dual nomenclature. Noko, nagkagulo na kasi yung mga who's who in mycology, mga famous names. Diyos ko, dahil akala mo masusuntukan na sila talaga. Yung mga, hindi naman, exaggerated lang sa akin. Parang, joke it out na kasi babae, kilalaki talagang grabe kung mag-insultuhan na. Kasi yung mga ayaw nila mag-change, yung mga clinicians, yung mga clinical mycologists, ay yung mga taxonomists, gusto na nilang mag-change para simple na lang kasi nakakalito na nga talaga. So anyway, nung time na yon, hindi nanalo. 80 lang ang nag-vote para sa change. There were like 500 there at that time. So then, talagang nag-gain na ng momentum. So in 2010 or the next slide please. So in 2011 pala. So nagkaroon na sila ng symposium sa Utrecht in the Netherlands. So they decided that fungus can only have one name. So they had what they call the Amsterdam Declaration on Fungal Taxonomy 2011. Para bang Treaty of Paris? Napaka.
Yeah. Sounds so official.
Na to. Sabi talaga nakakatuwa lang yung, what? Amsterdam Declaration? Parang ano yan?
Parang hindi na daw po i-challenge.
Oh, so because they said that the new nomenclature of fungus or fungi is a concept that has outlived its usefulness. Pwede naman talaga kung talagang gugustuhin. So under the auspices of the International Commission on the Taxonomy of Fungi, ICTF, hindi IATF ha, ICTF. The purpose of this was to determine how the current system of naming pleomorphic fungi should be maintained or changed now that molecular data are routinely available. So yung molecular data, yun talaga ang naka-cause ng change nito. Kasi yung pag sinabi mong molecular, yung DNA, yung genes, they tell you the truth. Na yun talaga ang real tawag doon
identity or
yun talaga yung yung classification, yung natural classification talaga. Hindi yung katulad nung kanina sa magkapareho kayo ng itsura, diyan kayo classified kayo. Kasi have you heard of convergent evolution? Yun yung when you're in the same adverse condition, you tend to, react to that adverse condition. And then you tend to look like similar to each other. So yun ang nangyayari kasi merong isa parang pseudo na ascoma pero hindi naman talaga. Kasi kunyari lang para siya mag-survive. So yun ang nangyari. Convergent evolution, yun nangyari. Kaya very plastic yung ang tawag nung traditional classification kasi morphological concept yung structures lang. I'm sure sa plant ganun din, marami ding plasticity. Anyway, so next is, so in the next year, so they said, okay, we will have one fungus, one name. Ngayon ang question naman, which name? Kasi madami, minsan may tatlo, may dalawa, tatlo. Excuse me. So doon pa rin sa Utrecht, sa Netherlands. So yun, pinag-usapan nila yun. So then, kung kailangan mo ng approval sa change, you have to go to the International Botanical Congress. So nangyari ito in 2012, there was a congress in Melbourne sa Australia. So na-approve yung proposal ng mga mycologists. They call it the Melbourne Code 2012. So yung Melbourne Code talaga, it was a turning point as well. So after January 1, 2013, a fungus can only have one name. So isa na lang. And then the code was changed. The name of the code was changed from the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature to the International Code of Nomenclature for Algae, Fungi, and Plants. Kasi dati kasi nasa botanical tayo. Kasi sa akala nila, ang fungi are plants. Hindi ako papayag. Hindi talaga. So then another one important thing that was changed, which I was very happy, was the language for validating diagnosis in the code can be either Latin or English. Kasi dati, pag nag-describe kami ng fungi, Latin talaga yon. Puro Latin yung description mo. So ngayon, pwede ng English, di mas madali. I had to hire somebody para ayusin yung Latin ko. Kasi hindi pwedeng hindi mo ma-publish. Okay. So again, na-change na yung code, and then what happened to that one? The language for validating diagnosis, so that is diagnosis in the code, can either be Latin or English. Okay. So let's go to the next slide, please. So, okay, what is diagnosis? To clarify, the term diagnosis in this context is that it is a description that contains taxonomically informative and uninformative features, or a summary of characters that differentiate the new taxon from related or similar taxa. So yun yung tawag namin, diagnosis ang tawag namin doon sa description ng fungus. So ito yung Latin. So ganito kami magsulat. So when I published my new order and family, so I had to write it in Latin like this. And then you see my name after the name. So that's the authority of the name. And then we say ordo, novum, or fam novum. Okay. So then you have to say where the article, where the name was published, because you have to register your name in the Index Fungorum, and you have to say where which page it is on. It is in. Okay. So merong ganyan. Your name will be attached to the name as the authority of that name. So kung merong mag-change dyan later on, yung name mo maging parenthesis, tapos yung kanila man ilalagay nila. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Kaya pa ba? Okay, so another one, the next one is an example of the English diagnosis. So this is also when I describe the species, the new species, Penicillium labradorum. O di ba? It evokes an image kasi labradorum, alam mo na kagad, galing to sa Labrador na dog. Kasi doon namin na-isolate yung Penicillium na yan. So again, we were the authority, so my name is in there, and SP Nov is called species novum. So spa nov ang tawag namin dyan. So this is the example of an English diagnosis.
Okay, so here is your name po talaga, tita. If you search it on the web, yung full description would carry your name around with it.
The name, yes.
Apo. I mean your name, the name of the scientist who coined it.
Yeah, it will. If you go to Index Fungorum, you can see our names there.
Okay.
Index Fungorum. Yeah.
So fascinating.
You're going to be a mycologist, JP. Okay, so when do you use? Kasi ngayon may English na. Dati Latin diagnosis, yung Latin lang. we just have a description, whatever we see. So now, because there's English or Latin, you can still use Latin if you want. Because you know why? Because Latin doesn't change. So kung yung description from 100 years ago, you can still understand it from today. But with English, maybe a few years from now, we won't, because some of these words will change, right? So because the English language is very dynamic, it's evolving very fast.
All the time. Yeah.
Oh, but Latin did not evolve at all. So, okay. So when to use diagnosis or description? So diagnosis, you can use that when, for example, I have a new species under the genus Aspergillus. So, for example, in the genus, there were 5 other species. So my new species is different from those 5. So yun na ang ilalagay ko sa diagnosis, what the different characters are. Pero kung ang new taxon ko or new species ko ay walang closely related na species, siya lang mag-isa, malayo siya sa iba, you can use a description. Okay, so that's the difference. You use a diagnosis, just the differential characters, para ma-differentiate mo from the others. So, palimbawa, big sila, small ka, ganun lang. Brown to, white sila. Yun.